On one hand, playing close games is nice, but on the other hand, you can't have too many of those where you're playing close games and you come up short. It's kind of like moral victories, nice once in a while, but you can't rely on those, and they're not going to get the job done for you and not going to get you to where you want to go. We'll talk about this Michigan game here tonight, as we're with you after every Michigan basketball game, and it was game number 9 on the season. Michigan trying to snap a 2-game slide after their game on Saturday out at Oregon, which they lost in overtime, and then they dropped their final game down there in the Bahamas. Big Ten opener tonight with IU coming in. Michigan was a big 7-point favorite. It was a 2-point game at the half, and as I watch this game, and it ends up, a 3-point win for the Hoosiers, 78-75. Michigan falling to 4-5 on the season. This was a game, these two teams look pretty even, watching this game. Indiana with some more size in their front court, and they were trying to use that late in the game. And in the end, they did do that. And the biggest shot ended up being their big man, the 7-footer, Ware, who had a big one-hand running hook in the lane that made it a 2-point game. And then Michigan was chasing after that. And Doug McDaniel, who's an excellent player for Michigan, and he's a 77% free throw shooter, he split 3 pairs of free throws with under 3 minutes to go. It could be a little bit different story if he's able to make some free throws. So Michigan overall, actually they played pretty well. Like, they didn't win the game again. So that's one of those things, like, they did some nice things, but when you don't win the game and, you're at home against a Big Ten foe, I mean, we know what you have to do. I mean, these games are important to protect your home floor, and Michigan was not able to do that. Some turnovers in the second half, kind of some unforced ones. I think of Cheddar and, Kamwat's kind of little loose with the ball. If they could have tightened some of those things up, it might have been a different story here tonight. So, that's what I'm taking a look at as I watch this game. You think about trying to get to the NCAA tournament, and these are the kind of games like tonight that you're going to have to win. You're going to have to make up and, steal some on the road. That's what you're going to have to do if you're Michigan basketball. Now, let's take a look at some of the numbers. And Olivier Kamwa, he came alive early in the second half, and you can see what he really brings to the table offensively. Man, he was really the best player on the floor for a long stretch there in the beginning of the second half, showing his repertoire offensively, stepping out, hitting some jumpers, and then going down in the paint against some bigger players for the Hoosiers on their front line. And he was really putting in work. He had 18 points, 5 boards, and 2 assists for Michigan. Doug McDaniel, who came off an outstanding scoring game out there in Eugene, did not have it tonight. 3 of 14 from the floor, did not hit a 3-pointer for Michigan. 13 points, 3 boards, and 2 assists for Doug McDaniel. Go down the list with the starters. TW2 got double figures, 10, 4 of 8. Not bad from Terrence Williams, who likes to get out of the wing and step in on the break to some of those 3-pointers. And, that's his shot. It looks good. Terrace Reed Jr. continues to struggle. That's disappointing for Michigan. You're hoping for more. I know you were hoping for more. I was hoping for more. Reed Jr. was hoping for more. And he just, I don't know, I'd say he can't get out of his own way. He's, I think mentally, he gets called for, he's been getting called for too many travels. two in the first half, and it just kind of affects his overall game, what you end up seeing from him. We know that he's a big guy, and that last year you saw him. He's gonna draw some foul, or he's gonna commit some fouls that you'd say, man, that you don't like to see him committing, but it's been the turnovers by Reed Jr., not the fouls here in the early going, which has been a disappointment. It's as looks to me as much mental as anything. That's why people that have talked about, let's see a lineup change. I get that. Tonight was not the night with a bigger Hoosier front court, but I think you could see something like that in the games ahead, as soon as the next game against Iowa on Saturday, and Reed would be a candidate for that. Amari Burnett, we have seen his streaky shooting, but 0 of 4 from downtown. Or I'm sorry, 0 of 3 from downtown, 0 of 4 from the field, and just thumbs up with 4 points from the charity stripe. Got to have more from Burnett. Look, I mean, that's it's a rough one. When you're a starter and you don't play well, and Michigan loses. Amari Burnett has to play better. Reed Jr. has to play better. Doug McDaniel down the stretch has to play better. Now, if we're talking about so those are the ones that you look at and you talk about the things that are positive. Will Cheddar, 17 points, 6 rebounds, and an assist. Will Cheddar has improved his overall game. He's got a great demeanor when he's out there. He's got he's got a serious look on his face, and he has a serious game, and he has continued to get better. He was really into it tonight, knocking him down from downtown. Look at him. When you're 6 of 7 from the field, and they were running some plays for him, you'd like to see even more of that. Do I think that Will Cheddar can be put into the starting lineup? Sure. I think that overall, when we're talking about a lineup change, and this is something that if you're a fan of Michigan and you think, well, what can they do? That's one of the things they can do. To me, they have 3 players that would be like really nice 6th or 7th men, really nice bench players. One of those is Terrence Williams II. He started every game this year for Michigan. The other is Trey Jackson, who's kind of an instant offense type player. And the third one is Will Cheddar, the redshirt sophomore from Minnesota, the 6'8" forward. All 3 of those guys are best suited to me coming off the bench. Unfortunately, or however, they need one of those guys to be in the starting lineup. It's been TW2 the whole time. And so could they go to, Reed? Again, it's a confidence thing. Yeah, they could. And so I would say do that myself. I was ready to do it tonight, and now I am ready to do it coming up on Saturday. So I am calling for a lineup change. I would put Cheddar in for Reed, and I would do that starting on Saturday. Now, that's me. And Trey Jackson, 5 points. Jalen Llewellyn, his second game back, just with 3 points. And it takes a while. Sometimes I can go back and harken back to my own playing days where you get hurt and you get back. And sometimes that first game you play halfway decent. But then, there is an adjustment to be able to get back up to speed. It's not just scrimmaging or playing in practice to get up to game speed. It takes a while. And so this has been 2 games, hopefully it's going to be, he didn't have, Michigan can't afford, they need him. It would be nice to have him, coming back and be able to do something. He did launch a 3-pointer and knock it down, but then had, one of these just unforced turnovers where the ball just, fell out of his hands and out of bounds. Expected when you're coming back from the absence that he had a whole year with the knee injury, but hopefully he can, get that back and be back to, where he was prior to the injury. So that's the numbers. That's the long and short of it. We'll look at the upcoming schedule. Let's take a look at some of the feedback. people looking forward to football. I get that. Kyle saying that the team struggles in the last 5 minutes. Kyle, I'd say bingo on that. The story of Michigan's basketball season last year is that they were in a lot of games in the last 5 minutes, heck, even in the last minute. You know, uh, the uh, the road, the ditch on the road to the NCAA tournament is littered with teams that can't get it done in the last 5 minutes or last minute. Michigan was one of those last year. That's what it's all about, being able to, sure, you want to be able to get there. And it's, again, nice to be able to put yourself in position to be in like a one score game, down the stretch. But you have to win your share of those games. Michigan, what did they win? One last year? And they got to be able to, that's what it's about. It's about winning basketball games down the stretch. And obviously these last two games, they have not been able to do that. JR's talking about on the Michigan basketball postgame show, talking about the offensive line. Kyle talking about Doug missing two crucial free throws. I would say three crucial free throws as he split the three opportunities he had with under 3 minutes to go. So yeah, sure, two. I'll say three. Trey Jackson he's got a nice offensive game. He's instant offense. He's kind of a nice player. He's got nice size. Comes off the bench. He's a southpaw, 6'10", and no complaints there. I mean, that he is what you kind of expected. And so that's what we have seen from him. Matthew talking about 2 and 13 in one possession games under Juwan. They struggle in late game situations. I don't know if that is an accurate number. In their last 15, and I don't know where you get the number from, but they do struggle, and you could be right. You might, like Juwan has been coaching. This is his fifth year. They played in more, so maybe you're just talking about the last 15 games, and I don't know where we're talking about with one possession under 5 minutes under one. But no, they have not done well. So I'm with you on that, and you're right. But it's where you say, well, what do they need to do? Where does it need to start? You can't start at the end by saying, hey, they need to execute in late game situations. Make your free throws. They need to do a better job there. Having the ability, boxing out, rebounding, playing defense. They didn't double the big man. He's a 7-footer. Letting him get in the lane and maybe forcing the ball out of his hand, that could be one. They did a little bit of doubling. I have to look at you talk about having to look at the tape. A little bit too close on that right in the lane. Didn't like that shot. That was the biggest shot of the game. Reed just playing him one-on-one. That's the thing. So something there. Mentioned making the free throws. I like some of the offensive execution. They were going to McDaniel and they were going to Kamwa late in this game, and with mixed results. We already talked about the missed free throws from McDaniel. He's got to do better. I mean, it was good him drawing some fouls there, but you got to step up and you got to make your free throws. Kamwa had one block, but then came back and made a sweet J. When you're talking about a back and forth type game, he is their go-to guy. But in an evenly played game with two evenly matched teams and a tie game where you're talking about one possession, all of these small things matter. And so the tonight it was the free throws and not being able to squeeze the ball on, they finally with what McDaniel makes it a 1-point game with 35 seconds to go as he splits a pair. That's a big deal. But then IU, they get 2 shots at the post and they miss it. Michigan's got to be able to secure that rebound, and the ball ends up going off of Reed. I mean, that's a big play in the game. Missed free throw, not being able to squeeze the rebound and be able to get the possession there, an additional possession for IU. IU did a good job fouling and not allowing Michigan to even get it into the front court to have an opportunity at a tie field goal, certainly a tie 3-pointer. That was good. And hey, you talk about it, you watch enough college basketball, you say, oh yeah, this is exactly what you do. But then there's a lot of teams that aren't able to do it. Talking about being up 3 and fouling the other team before they get a shot up. Indiana was able to do that tonight. They did a good job that way. So that's it. Michigan has dropped 3 in a row. Let's see. I'll go through some of those. Matt said it was Oregon basketball. He was referencing the late game situation. Michigan Go Blue says, you think the late game issues is mainly a coaching issue? We obviously have the talent. No, it's when, the easy thing. I went through some of that execution. Every game is different. Somebody was complaining about, hey, Michigan can't even bring up the ball. That's coaching. Talking about the Oregon game. Well, who did you want bringing up the ball? They had Doug McDaniel with the ball flying up the court, and the ball just got tipped and went off his leg. I mean, that's McDaniel. You had the ball in the player's hands. He's got to be able to get the ball up the floor tonight. When you go into this, we've already mentioned the free throws. McDaniel. It's 3 minutes to go. It's, IU by 1. McDaniel gets fouled. Great. Splits the pair. So it's a tie game. No big deal. But then, McDaniel gets fouled again when it's a 2-point game. And he's only to make 1. So that's a 1-point game. And then you come down blocking out and being able to get a rebound. I don't know. Being able to make, is it clutch plays, routine plays when everything matters? You got to make your share of them and be able to close out, win ball games, and Michigan has not been able to do that. So you talk about the coaching. I would talk more about the players. Got to be able to make those plays. Got to be able to make those free throws. Got to be able to get a rebound. And to me, that was it. The missed free throws tonight, late in the game by McDaniel, and not being able to get that rebound in a 1-point game, and a 1-point game with 35 seconds to go, 35.6 to go. After McDaniel makes it a 1-point game, making 1 of 2 free throws, IU comes down, goes into the post, hammers it in there, misses it. They get the rebound, they go back up, they miss it again. The ball initially is called Michigan. Michigan's going to have the ball with 35.6 to go. They go to the replay, clearly went off of Reed Jr. You got to be able to get that rebound. That comes to a box out situation. Is that coaching? You tell me. Did anyone think Ware hooked Reed on the hook late? I'd have to go back and look at that. I mean, he as last second shots go, or under a minute, like he was, the guy's a 7-footer, and, he looked like Kareem in the paint on that one. I'd have to look to see his offhand. I didn't really see that part. So that's where we're at. These games right here, Michigan is, they're in a tough spot now. Playing these close games, good, but you got to win some of them, and they have not been able to do that. That's, it's the thing that's disappointing about this team is that the first 3 games of the year, they looked great. Great. I gave them an A+. In the first 3, so it was UNC Asheville, Youngstown State, fair enough. And then they went out and played St. John's and MSG and say, okay. And they looked awesome out there. And then you think, oh man, share on the ball. This team, look at, man, they've got McDaniel, looks great. Kamwa's a great addition. They're really, but Namari Burnett went off in the first half out there at the MSG. And then you're thinking, okay, at some point they're going to get Llewellyn. Who was it It was it was Dane Fife. What game was he doing? Was he doing the game, the St. John's game at MSG? And look, broadcasters, whatever, but these guys are the experts. You're going to at least listen to what they have to say. And Dane Fife said, this team is one ball handler away from being elite. And he wasn't talking about being elite in the Big Ten. He was talking about being elite in the country. That's how good they looked. And that's what, Dane Fife was saying. It seems like a long time ago now, talking about this team being one ball handler away from being elite. But, that's what happens when you start out and you play so well and you look so good, you're sharing the ball and you're doing everything. And then, you hit the skids a little bit. Now they've played hard and tight games these last two, but they haven't been able to win one of them. Different story. I think we're sitting here, being under 500, it doesn't take, Joe Lenardi. There's no reason to start looking at the net numbers or, quad 4 losses or anything yet, because it's not very good. You got to win a couple ball games before you start looking at something and get on the good side of 500 before you start thinking about, hey, they got to string some wins together. They got to win this Saturday at Iowa. This Indiana team, no, it was Purdue. I watched take on Iowa, punched them. Purdue's doing that, I guess, to a lot of teams. So we'll see. Who did I watch? Indiana? Maybe it was Iowa. It was just the other night, and Indiana looked pretty good. I was surprised that Michigan was a 7-point favorite, but that's kind of how the Big Ten works, man. You're at home and you're going to be desperate for a win. The home teams are usually taking care of that. Michigan not able to do it tonight. All right, man. I do appreciate everybody joining us. If you're watching this, listening to it after the fact, Matthew, thank you for getting in. I like people that watch the game right afterwards. You want to discuss it. You want to make some points. That's why we're here. It's fun to come on and talk about Michigan. Hopefully, we're able to talk about some positive things. And the bottom line, talk about some wins. I mean, there's some positive things to talk about, but it's not much fun, Will Cheddar was nice tonight, and that's nice, but in a losing effort, it's not so nice. So they got some cover right now, the basketball team, because the football team is doing what they're doing. If football season was over and it was not a college football playoff, a lot of the focus would, he's talking about Jawan and Martelli and recruit. I mean, we'd be talking about all kinds of things. Still talk about a little bit of that, but they're getting cover from the football team. It's weird, Jawan Howard, when he was down in the Bahamas, like at first, it's not a weird situation. It's a health situation. But, when he went out to the MSG, it's like, wait, Jawan Howard was with the team in practice, but now he's, back in the locker room watching the game. So, okay, hopefully Jawan's feeling better. Then you had him down in the Bahamas and he was on the floor and he was standing up, I thought, a little bit too much, but hell, he's the head coach. And, then he got thrown out of the game. And then I think it was the doctor. This is just complete speculation on my part. Whatever he did to get thrown out, I think the doc said, hey, just, you gotta be able to relax a little bit more during the game or whatever. That's, again, my guess. And he looked way more relaxed tonight on the sideline, but man, it's a pressure cooker. So it's tough to just sit there, especially when you're used to being the head coach and standing up on the sideline, working the rafts, doing everything. Now you got to have the seat belt on and you got to be sitting there. That's got to be difficult for Jawan Howard, I would say, especially when the team is performing like they are as of late. Probably felt pretty good watching the team for the first 3 games. All right, let's look at that upcoming schedule. I can sit here all night. And if you're still watching, listening to this, you are one of the diehards of Michigan basketball. And it's nice to, have you out there. That upcoming schedule is brought to you by the Maize and Blue Review and Good Afternoon Michigan Football and Basketball. this very feed that you're watching or listening to right now, 2 o'clock, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. That means coming up tomorrow, almost just later on today, we'll be here talking about the latest with the Wolverines. Here is the upcoming schedule. And after the Oregon loss and then tonight's loss to IU, now Michigan, I said Saturday earlier, that was a mistake. It is going to be out in Iowa City in a matinee this Sunday. Luckily, the BTN, if I could complain about Peacock for just 1 second, look, I could complain about having to shell out the $6 a month, whatever. I can complain about that. But if I'm going to shell out the $6, I would like to be able to watch the game where it doesn't look like in the 1980s or something, or I don't know, from watching it on a computer out on an island. Like I don't know if it was just me, but too many times there was almost a spot where I was like, all right, this is ridiculous. I got to call Peacock and tell them that their feed's a joke. And then, they seem like they got it a little bit. The audio isn't married up really well. They, I don't know who the engineers are, if that's something, or it just has to do with it being a streaming service and there's just limitations where it just doesn't look like or sound like a normal broadcast, even though I'm paying an additional $5.99 a month. Yeah, I'll complain about that. Make me pay the money, but then give me something that I want to watch where I don't think like I have to, go looking for the phone number and call up and complain. I do like Stephen Bardo, and it's the first time I'd ever heard a Chris Collinsworth kid who sounds so much like Jack Collinsworth, sounds so much like his dad. And, so it was like having Chris Collinsworth doing a basketball game, Jack Collinsworth doing it. I was ready to, have him start talking about Patrick. Oh, Mike, Patrick Mahomes. Oh, what are we watching here tonight? But he did a solid job on the call. So I'm not making fun of him. I would give him, as broadcasts go, high marks on the broadcast. So that's where I'm at right there. Oh, yeah, here you go. Thank you, William. That's what I watched. I watched IU dismantle Maryland. Thank you. I watched Purdue dismantle Iowa. I mean, they just tore them apart. And then IU worked over Maryland pretty good. That's right. How soon I forget, just watching. I mean, we're talking like 2 nights ago and I can't remember a game. All right. I'm not getting high marks on that. All right. Thanks, everybody. We will see you tomorrow at 2:00 on this feed. And then Sunday after the Michigan-Iowa game, if you're just the Michigan basketball aficionado, thanks for watching. Take care, everybody. The final tonight, 78-75. Michigan drops to 4-5 on the season.